Good morning Year 7, it's Mrs. Reed and welcome to Lesson 13. Today we're going to be reading, and in fact we're going to be continuing reading this lovely story that we've got to so far. This is Hostage by Malorie Blackman, and we're really up to about halfway through chapter 3 at the moment. So if you have your book to hand, that's really good because you can follow along with me. Don't worry if not, because I will be reading it to you under the visualizer. So before we start today, please make sure you've got everything you need. So as always, make sure you've got some paper, lined paper preferably, or your exercise book to work in. That you have a pen or a pencil, something to write with, and a ruler would be useful too for underlining dates and titles. Finally, if you have a coloured pen or a pencil, something for marking your answers at the end, that's also helpful. So pause the video, make sure you've got everything you need to before we start. Alright, let's get going. So we've got our equipment, we've made sure we are distraction free, and we're ready to focus on the story. So the first thing that we need to do is to get our page set up. So let's do that first. At the top of your page, can you write hostage as your title? Don't forget to use a capital letter for the H too. And include today's date. It's the 1st of February, so we can write it's the 1st, the 2nd, 21. Can you pause the video, write down your title and date and underline them with a ruler, please? Okay, super. So let's just remind ourselves what happened in the story, Hostage. In fact, I'm sure you could probably tell me 2 things that have happened to our character Angela so far. Okay, so I'm going to pause here, or I'm going to count you down from 3, and I would like you to say 2 things that have happened to our character Angela. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Okay, good. So you may have said that Angela was leaving school one day and she didn't want to go home because she'd had an argument with her dad. You may have said that Angela heard her name being called by a stranger, and then she was grabbed hold of and thrown into a car. She was kidnapped. We know that Angela was blindfolded and driven to a strange location where she was taken into a building, and that's kind of where we got to, where Angela was left inside a room with boarded up windows, and her hostages, the people holding her captive, are still there. So we're going to read on. In fact, we're going to read the rest of chapter 3 and all of chapter 4 today. You're going to answer 6 questions about the story in full sentences. And if you have time, you can do what we call a witness statement. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. As always, at the end of the lesson, we will check and mark our work, and then you can send me a copy of what you've done. So let's just have a quick look here. So we're reading all the way up to the end of chapter 4, and we're going to be answering these 6 questions. Okay. In fact, let's just go in for the reading first, and we can come back to these questions after. So if you're reading along with me, you might want to get your book ready. And I'm just going to open mine up. So currently we got up to this page. Can you see that? Let's move those out of the way for a minute. So we actually got up to page 21. And you can see here's the picture of the room that Angela was shut in. So let's turn the page and make a start. Okay, we've got a good picture here to show us how Angela is feeling. Maybe you can just explain that. How do you think Angela is feeling at this point? Yeah, I think that she's feeling very upset. In fact, she's not just sad, is she? I think she's feeling scared too. This is a really shocking and terrifying thing that's happened to her. Okay. Yeah, Baldy grinned. We want. Shut up, Quill, the blonde man snapped. So now I knew the bald guy's name. No names in front of a girl, remember? The woman hissed. They all turned to look at me, and I couldn't help it. I began to cry. Dad wouldn't cry if he were here, I told myself. Nothing could ever make Dad cry. Tie her up, said the woman. I'll do it, said Quill. Could I make a break for it? Could I make a break for it? I could get past the two men, but the woman was right by the door. Then the woman walked over to Quill and said something in his ear. Now it was time to get away. But Quill moved to stand in front of me. I had lost my chance. Would I get another? Okay, so our next chapter here is called Held to Ransom. So if we hold somebody to ransom, that means that we're keeping somebody against their will, and what we're asking for in return for them being released is money. So a ransom is like you're making a demand. You're saying, you must pay this amount of money if you want to see this person or this object again. So you've taken something and you are refusing to give it back unless somebody pays you. So a ransom is all about giving over some money or at least something valuable. When you've tied her up, come downstairs, said the woman. I want to talk to you, both of you. The woman and the blonde man left the room. I heard them going down the stairs. Don't tie me up, Quill, I begged in a soft voice. I'd hate that. I've got to tie you up, Quill said, and don't call me Quill in front of the others. I shook my head. I wasn't that stupid. Are you after the jewels in my dad's shop? Are those the goods you want him to hand over? I asked. Quill took some thin rope out of his pocket and nodded. My heart sank. Dad used the same kind of rope for tying up parcels at home. It was thin, but very strong. Too strong to break. Okay, let's pause here. Did you hear what was revealed? So what was the ransom? What did they say that they wanted for the release of Angela? Okay, so they're after the jewels in her dad's shop. That's what is the valuable thing that they want to have in order for Angela to be let go. I wonder if they'll get it. Once we get the jewels, we'll let you go, said Quill. And if Dad won't hand them over? He wants you back, doesn't he? That was the problem. I didn't know. Dad loved his shop and his jewels. Dad had always gone off to his shop when the rows between him and Mum got too bad. Sometimes I thought he loved his jewels more than me. Then I felt silly and angry. How could I get so upset that he spent so much time with his bits of metal and fancy glass? Come on, this won't take long. Put your hands behind your back, Quill ordered. Can you see what's happening here? He's using the rope to tie our hands together. Poor Angela. Slowly I did as I was told. Then I remembered something that Dad had told me. He'd learnt how to do it in the army. When Quill tied my wrists, I kept them together and I bent my hands back. When he tied my ankles, I kept them together and twisted my feet apart. Dad told me that if you do this, the rope is not tied up as tight. Quill tied the rope and stood up. Do I have to gag you? He asked. I shook my head. I hated the thought of anything over my mouth. One single sound out of you and I'll muzzle you like a dog. I nodded. The two down below. Oh, I've missed a bit. It's no good shouting or yelling. There's no one for miles around. All you do is make the two down below very angry with you. Do you understand? Quill said. I nodded again. I heard footsteps. Then the other two came back into the room. The woman was talking to Dad on a mobile phone. Mr. Henshaw, you will do just as we say, she started speaking. I could hear Dad's angry voice at the other end of the phone. Listen to me, Mr. Henshaw, the woman told him. I have someone here who'll make you change your mind. Say hello to your dad, Angela. She thrust the phone at me. Dad, I said softly. Dad, is that you? Angela, Dad was shocked. Angela, are you okay? Dad, I'm scared. The phone was yanked away from me. Time's up, said the woman. She and the blonde man left the room. The woman was still talking on the phone as she went. Like I said, be a good girl, and you'll soon be home, said Quill. He left the room and locked the door behind him. I made myself relax. The rope round my wrist felt a little loose. I lay down on the floor. I didn't make a sound. I lay on my side and tucked my knees under my chin. Then I slipped. My hands passed my hips and down the back of my legs, and soon I was working away to free the rope that tied my ankles. It cut into my fingers as I worked, but at last it fell away. It was not so easy to free my hands. I had to use my teeth and the finger of one hand and the thumb of another to undo the knot, but I did it. Now what? I stood up and went over on tiptoe to the window. It was no good. There was no way that I could pull away from the planks. No way that I could pull away the planks from over the window without making a lot of noise. Think, think, think. I looked in my pockets. I hoped that something in there would give me an idea. I looked around. My mind was still blank. I tiptoed across to the door, even though I knew Quill had locked the door. I tried to open it. No good. I peeked through the keyhole. Was there anyone outside? I couldn't see a thing because the key was in the lock. That's when I had an idea, a very risky idea. I crept across to the room to get the newspaper that was lying on the table. I laid it flat on the floor, then pushed it half under the door so that it was under the key. I had some gum and a safety pin in my pocket. I put the gum in my mouth to make it soft. I unbent the safety pin and poked it into the lock. The key dropped out on the other side, and it fell with a clink onto the newspaper. Had my kidnappers heard anything? I pulled the newspaper through to my side of the door. That's very clever thinking from Angela, isn't it? To think that she's got things in her pocket that she could use to try and get the key back for the door. I'm not sure I would have been that clever to think of those ideas. I pulled the newspaper through to my side of the door. The key was lying on it. I froze. Would anyone come rushing up the stairs? Silence. I unlocked the door and opened it wide. I still had the gum in my mouth. The next part was very hard. I ran to the window and banged my fist on the planks. Help! Help! I yelled. At once I heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Please let it be all of them, I prayed. I ran across the room and stood behind the door. I had the key in my hand. I thought you had tied her up, the woman said. She was angry. I did, Quill told her. The door's wide open, said the blonde man. They all rushed into the room. This was it. I ran around the door, pulled it shut behind me, and locked them in with the key. And that takes us up to chapter 5. Wow, I'm really impressed with how Angela has managed to come up with these clever plans under pressure. Okay, so let's take a look again at our questions. We're going to be answering 6 questions. Remember, we're answering in full sentences. So we're going to say, what is a ransom? What did they want from Angela's dad? How did Angela know what to do when the man tied her up? When she was given the phone, how did she tell her dad she was feeling? When she was free from the ropes, why couldn't she escape the room? What did she use to remove the key from the door? Okay, so you may wish to pause the video here and start completing your questions. If you want to, you can work along with me, and I'm going to write a sentence stem for each one. Okay, let's go back to my page, find my pen, and let's have a go at question number 1. So question number 1 says, what is a ransom? Okay, so I need to write down then what I think that is in my own words. So a ransom is, and you can tell me here what you think it is. Number 2, what do they want from Angela's dad? Okay, so they, who does that refer to here? So this is referring to the kidnappers, isn't it? They want something from Angela's dad. Okay, don't forget to put a little apostrophe here, look, to show that, to show possession actually. It is the dad of Angela, Angela's dad. Number 3, how did she know what to do when the man tied her up? That's a good question. How did she make the rope loose? Angela, let's put it into the past tense. So how did she know? That will be Angela knew what to do. And you can just use because for this to explain why. How did she know that? Where did she learn it from? Okay, I'm going to stop there and let you complete questions 1 to 3. So pause the video here and answer your questions. Right, let's make a start on question 4. Question 4 says, when she was put on the phone, how did she tell her dad she was feeling? Okay, so when she was on the phone, that's a part that tells when, isn't it? When she was on the phone, what goes after a part that tells when? A comma, good. When she was on the phone, Angela said she was feeling, and you can tell me there the answer. Number 5, when she was free of the ropes, why couldn't she escape the room? Okay, so I'm going to say Angela couldn't escape the room, and this will be a because sentence as well, because, to explain why. So this is before the ending. So when she's been tied up and she manages to get herself loose, what is it that stops her from leaving the room straight away? And sentence 6, what did she use to remove the key from the door? Oh, that's a good one. Angela used 2 things actually, something and something else, to remove am I doing? Adding an extra letter. The key from the door. Full stop. Okay, so pause the video here and answer questions 4, 5 and 6. If you get stuck and you're not sure, remember you can always go back to the book. You can go back to chapters 3, chapters 4 and check. And when you're ready, we will mark our answers. Okay, so we had 6 questions to do today, and I said to you there is an activity here if you've got time. So if you do have time left, you might want to create what we call a witness statement. So we're going to imagine that we've witnessed something happening. So maybe we have seen Angela being put into the car. Maybe we've heard the kidnappers take Angela into the building. Okay, so maybe we were in the jewellery shop and we've heard them on the phone to her dad. So we need to say what date it is, which day, what's the time and where we were. And then if we want to, we can do a little visual, an artist's impression. So that could be of the car or the bald man or Quill or the lady or the blonde man. So it might be one of the characters from the story that we've seen. And then we're going to just write a few sentences to tell the police what it is that we've seen. Okay, so this is a good creative task where you can say, imagine if you were in the story and you witnessed what was going on, what would you tell the police? Okay. If you have not got lots of time left, or if you have completed both of those tasks, let's go on to mark. Okay, so checking your answers, remember these are short answers and yours must be in full sentences. So I might say that a ransom is money that is paid for the release of somebody. Okay, in this case they want Angela's dad to pay with jewels from his shop. Number 3, Angela knew what to do because her dad had learnt how to do it in the army, hadn't he? He'd taught her how she could turn out her feet or her wrists to make the rope loose. Number 4, when she was on the phone, Angela said she was feeling scared. Number 5, Angela couldn't escape the room because Quill had locked the door. You might have said the door was locked, that kind of thing. That will still be correct. And number 6, Angela used gum and a safety pin to remove the key from the door. Okay, check your answers, give yourself a mark out of 6, please. And finally, let's just go through. So you should have answered all 6 questions in your exercise book. You should have, if you had time, had a go at making your own witness statement. You should have checked your answers to the questions and marked them. And finally, you can take a picture of your work and send it over to me. I hope you have a really good day. Bye!